Hi everyone, Chris Natsky here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. Coming to you a little bit later this week, coming to you on a Wednesday versus a Tuesday because I am literally coming fresh off a most amazing experience I had this past weekend. I went to a 4-day meditation retreat down in Colorado Springs and just had an incredible time connecting with myself, with nature, with some great people, but importantly, that higher power inside us all. And so just was an amazing experience. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today, hi there, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was the idea that, we can have these great experiences and we enter back into our lives, and how easy it is to go back into our old habits. So, I had this great experience with this meditation retreat, and I find within a day or two of me back, I'm right back to my busyness and my go, and I realized that so many of the things that I was experiencing, it's like I forgot because I got myself back in the environment. As I had a good friend talk to me, I was sharing this with him today, and he said, we spend so much time planning for our vacations and our events, etc., and we're excited about going, and we're there, and we're present, but we don't really plan it for the re-entry. And I realized that was a huge opportunity for me. And one of the things that really came into my awareness is how I have a real opportunity to accept and surrender what is and really let go of control in my life. Because more times than not, when I find myself upset or I find myself going too fast, it's because I'm trying to chase something because I feel I'm out of control with it. So I want to talk about this idea of acceptance and surrender. And when I talk about this, I want to make sure that I'm really clear when I'm talking about acceptance and surrender. I'm not talking about weakness. As a matter of fact, I'm talking about the exact opposite. I'm talking about strength and courage, because one of the most difficult things we can do oftentimes is to accept what is and really surrender into it. Or like I titled this whole filming segment here, acceptance and surrender is not for wimps. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. And when I talk about acceptance and surrender, what I'm not talking about here is giving in to the circumstances or running from them or hiding or avoiding. I'm talking about giving up the patterns and the behaviors and the mindsets that we bring into these situations that make them difficult for us to handle. There are times that we have to take action and do what we need to do, and then there's times we need to say, I'm complete, and now I just need to let things run their course. And most of the time in my own life is when I have the greatest amount of of anxiety or whatever, is when I'm worried about something that's out of my control. And so having that acceptance and surrender really takes us to that next level. And it means not fighting what's going on in our life. It doesn't mean that we like it necessarily. It doesn't mean that we enjoy it, but it just means that we accept it. And I love Byron Katie's quote. She says, when you fight with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time, right? So think about that in your own lives. How many times do you have an opportunity to accept what's going on and surrender to it, so that then what you can do is you can refocus your energy rather than fighting against it? Because the more you fight against something, the more you persist, the more you resist, the more it's going to persist. How can you accept what is and then focus on where you want to go? So trust me, guys, when I'm sharing this with you, I'm sharing this for myself as much as I am for you. So I've got a couple steps here, a few steps that I'm going to be focusing on coming out of this retreat that I wanted to share with you. And the first one is when I come up against things where I have an opportunity to accept and surrender rather than resist, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop, drop, and breathe. So what do I mean by that? First thing is stop. And rather than being my emotion over it, rather than being my craziness over it, is look at it for what's really happening. Because when you can look at it objectively, it starts to take you out of the upset. And then drop from your head into your heart. Because when you do that, you're always going to get the right answers. And then finally, it's breathe. Make sure we take a breath and slow ourselves down. Very few of our wise choices ever come from a state of panic or pressing too hard. They usually come from us being in a calm state of mind, attached to our heart, so that we can move forward in a powerful way. Second thing is remind yourself that things always work out. I mean, they really do, don't they? They always work out. Now, might not be the way that you and I want them to, but they always work out. And as long as we're breathing, they're still going fine. You know, it's interesting. So many of the difficulties that I have is when I'm projecting the worry or the concern of what I think is going to happen in a certain situation. And more times than not, that never occurs. And it ends up fine. And then I move to the next thing to worry about, right? And I love Mark Twain's quote. He said something to the effect of, "I've had a lot of terrible things happen in my life. I've had a lot of things happen in my life, some of which actually happened." Right? So we're the process of us thinking about these is usually much, much worse than what normally happens. So just remind yourself of that. Next is to take action. And, that can be done in massive action, but generally, for me, it's done in these small incremental steps. And if you don't know what action to take in a situation after you've released and surrendered it, just slow down and listen to your heart, and you'll start to get some messages. And what I'd like you to think about is, whatever that is, just whatever comes to you, what's the next right action? Just what's the next right action? And then what's the next right action after that? And then the next right action after that. Because when you start to build off that, great things can happen. Number next is, don't be afraid to ask for help. This whole idea of acceptance and surrender, particularly in our society, is one that's often frowned upon. Hey, I'm a martial art guy. We're never supposed to surrender, right? But you realize that we don't get through life in brute force. We get through it by accepting and surrendering what's in front of us, taking the action, and then have the courage to ask for help. Because asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's really an aspect of strength. And then finally, probably most importantly, and the one that I have the most challenge with, I'm going to admit to you, is letting go of the outcome. Once you've done everything you could do, once you've set your intention, you've taken your action, you've done everything you can physically do, everything you can mentally and emotionally do, now it's time to let go of the outcome. Because quite honestly, what I often find is when I do my due diligence and I do my work and then I let it go, many times the result that I get is even better than what I had thought. So there you have it. There's some tips, a real encouragement for you this week. Where can you accept what's going on? Where can you surrender so you can take that energy and put it into something positive to create what you want to create? And understand that it takes courage to do it, and it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be scared to let go, because acceptance and surrender is not for wimps. So this has been Chris Natsky with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. Hey, as always, if you enjoyed this segment, please share it with someone you think it might help. Please comment. I love your comments, your suggestions. If you have topics that you'd like me to share, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion tip of the week.